Welcome back, everybody, to the Renaissance Tourism Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Riley. In today's episode, I'll be discussing the Chinese provinces of Tibet and Xinjiang and China's geopolitical security in Western China. Furthermore, it's important for me to add as well that these provinces they were first conquered in the case of Xinjiang by the Qing dynasty. The Qing dynasty ruled China from 1644 until 1911, and Tibet was conquered by Communist China in 1951. The reasons why the Qing dynasty conquered Xinjiang in the 19th century and then Tibet in the 20th century was to secure invasion routes into China. By taking Xinjiang, it secures western routes to actually invade China as well. So to secure that area. And by controlling Tibet, it would give the Chinese control of the high grounds. As you can see by looking at Google Maps and that we've got now, Tibet is very mountainous, it's very incredibly mountainous. And it's also why in 1962, Mao's China also went to war with India briefly in order to capture the high ground. So in the event of any war between India and the United States allies or a war against India in the West, China has the high ground. Any sort of campaign would have to take place on them in layers, incredibly mountainous terrain. And again, it's where the Chinese will have the advantages. It's one of the reasons why they conquered Tibet and conquered the place of Xinjiang. Also, the ethnicities, the native Tibetans and the Muslims in Xinjiang are slowly being replaced by the Han Chinese. China has a population of around 1.4 billion, though it's actually believed now the population is around 1 billion to 800 million due to the statistics from China actually had to come by as well. Its population is in terminal decline, and it's believed by the end of this century, the Chinese population could be around 500 million, possibly even 400 million, depending on how it emerges from the political instability. Now, China, through its long and bloody history, has been invaded repeatedly by foreign invaders, by barbarians, and most recently by Western powers and Japan. It's why they're very sensitive when it comes to their own geopolitical security, and it's why they'll do anything to maintain control of Tibet and Xinjiang, secure at the borders of China. This is a short one. I think it's pretty brief. It's self-explanatory. Uh, as you can see by this map, you can see why the actual Chinese want control of Xinjiang and Tibet, and why they won't let them go as well. Thank you for listening. I hope you found this podcast informative and interesting as well. Oh, and just one little bit of news as well. Recent reports are also coming from China that there's missile silos in the west are not operational. The domes won't open, and also that the fuel silos is also rather than being filled with fuel, is actually filled with water. So China could be experiencing the same level of corruption as the Russian Federation as well. As someone to be aware, it's believed that a fifth of the Russian military budget, rather than being spent on national defence and procurement, has instead been spent on the bribes or to the actual oligarchs within Russia and actually gone to defence. And that's why the Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 was a complete and utter balls up. It was a complete mistake. The Ukrainians invaded, no, the Russians invaded Ukraine through the state of Belarus, and Belarus invaded from the north and got close to the borders and surrounding area of the Ukrainian capital, Kiev. But the Russians had to stop and go back into Belarus to Russia because they had enough fuel to actually launch the campaign. So, with it being like that in Russia as well, and now reports with similar activities happening in China, the chance of China in getting involved in a offensive campaign to reconquer the island nation of Taiwan, which has been independent from mainland China since 1949, is incredibly unlikely as well. And also that President Xi, the current ruler of China since he became its president in 2012, have been launching a anti-corruption campaign, and now it's targeting the military. And this is probably what's been discovered as well, how corrupt the actual military is, and also the fact that with this discovery as well, uh, something like that systemic will go into the heart of the Chinese system. And next few months, we might be getting more news as well, actually how bad it is. And also, it could mean that any saber rattling from China will die down as well, because China will engage in any wars of conquest or expansion of its territory by reclaiming Taiwan until that situation is probably resolved. But these are dictatorships or authoritarian regimes, and logic and is not really their forte as well. Okay, I think that pretty much sums it up. Thanks for listening as well, and please take care. I wish you all a fantastic evening.